logo, and basically the color orange just became a little darker is all they changed. And the dog pound logo that they have for separate dog pound stuff was slightly changed too, but they didn't put a logo on the helmets. Nothing really changed. They just darkened the orange a little bit, and totally boring. No story. Very disappointed. Also, as far as the Browns are concerned, Johnny Manziel is still in rehab, and they have been quoted as saying that they are looking to draft a starting quarterback or sign a starting quarterback in free agency for this upcoming season because Johnny Manziel's roots are, quote, deeper rooted than we thought, end quote. However, I believe that they will hang on to Mr. Manziel, at least for a time being. They won't cut him. It would definitely be bad PR on their part, but they will be looking for someone else to be their starting quarterback on opening day, and we'll see if they can find someone in the draft or if they choose to go the free agency route. We also got Marshawn Lynch. Not sure if he's going to retire yet or not. We'll just have to wait and see on that. Dude does what he wants. I do what I want. I'm Marshawn Lynch. But and also Marshawn Lynch trademarked. This is great. If he went out and trademarked the phrase, "I'm just here so I won't get fined," and hopefully I don't owe him any money for just saying that now on my radio show. But if I do, Marshawn, just hit me up on the Twitter or the Facebook and let me know where to mail you the check to, buddy. Or maybe I could just go buy a bag of Skittles and write Mr. Lynch on it and mail it to the Seahawks front office, and it'll get to you. I don't know. One way or the other, we'll get you squared away, Mr. Lynch. All right, coming back to basketball for some quickies. Derrick Rose out for the season with an injury. No, you do not need to check your calendar. This isn't 2014 or 2013 or 2012. It's 2015. It's a new story. I know. You're like, I've heard this story before. Yes, you have, but this time it's new again. He injured the same meniscus, had the same meniscus tear in his knee. I believe that he suffered from earlier. He is out for the season. Just seems like that's always going to be the case with this guy. And, I think Chicago needs to look to move on from the Derrick Rose era. It's unfortunate for everybody, but I don't see how many times you need to see the same result before you figure out what's going to continue to happen. Also in basketball, Kevin Durant is out with an injury for about 6 to 10 weeks. However, Russell Westbrook is playing at MVP levels and leading the Oklahoma City Thunder back into the playoffs. At the time being, it seems like they will be okay without Durant. However, I feel that if they are to make any kind of extended push in the playoffs, that they will need Durant back healthy by then and coexisting with Russell Westbrook, who is really establishing the Thunder as his team now, as opposed to Durant's, which it's been the last few years. Also, a few nights ago, the Lakers won their 14th game of the entire season, and a couple of their players were ridiculously celebrating afterwards in an interview on camera after the game, and it's hilarious. You should check it out on YouTube or whatever, and also check out Kobe Bryant's response to it when he was on Kimmel the other night. Priceless, actually. I don't like a lot that Kobe does from an off-the-court standpoint, but this was I feel, the perfect and appropriate response to his teammates' actions from the other night. But anyway, check it out on the old YouTube if you haven't seen it yet. Pretty ridiculous for your 14th win out of like 50 or 60 games. Last bit of basketball news, Chris Bosh from the Miami Heat's also out with injury. Could be out the remainder of the season. Some serious health stuff, like with organs or something like that inside. Checking that out. Hopefully he's all right and can come back. The Heat could contend with the trades they made before the trade deadline, too, in the up-for-grabs East. And also, last night, LeBron James became the all-time assists leader in NBA history amongst forwards of all time. He passed Scottie Pippen. And that is actually, to me, as a basketball fan, a lifelong basketball fan, that is an extremely impressive record to break, especially when you consider where LeBron is at in his career and how many more assists he has to add to that record yet. So congratulations, LeBron, on your new record. All right, another quick basketball quickie. Two high school girls basketball teams in Tennessee in their tournament, their school tournament, were both intentionally tanking the game that they were playing against each other at the same time because the winner had to go on and face the number one seed in the tournament, and the loser had, obviously it was a more favorable matchup, so both teams were trying to tank the entire game. Girls were shooting at the wrong hoop on purpose. They were getting backcourt violations on purpose. It was remarkable. The consequences of this being both teams were removed from the tournament, from postseason, and are suspended for a year from playoff berth. Now, I think this is slightly ridiculous. They're high school girls on a basketball team. They're soldiers. They were only doing what they were told. They were only following orders. It's not their place to question what their coaches are telling them to do. It's their coaches' jobs and responsibility to tell them to do the right thing with integrity and sportsmanship and respect. So I do have a problem with the teams and the girls getting punished. In my opinion, you should just be firing these two coaches immediately and banning them from coaching in the state of Tennessee. Again, reinstate both the teams into their respective playoff spots. The game was ended. You had a winner and a loser. Put them where they were supposed to be in the tournament and let them go from there with a replacement coach. But mostly take your time. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened there. But anyway, as I was saying, Patrick Kane of the Chicago Blackhawks is out 6 to 10 weeks with an injury. That is great news for people who aren't Chicago Blackhawks fans. Get well, Patrick, but take your time. Please, for the rest of us. Take your time, buddy. All right, moving the quickies on over to NASCAR. This past Sunday, Joey Logano won his first ever Daytona 500 with a little help from his teammate Clint Boyer on the final couple laps. He was able to win the race. Jeff Gordon, who was the pole leader and in the first position to start the race, led for a race-high 87 laps. However, he finished in 33rd, and Gordon wrecked on one of the last laps to help drop him to that place. Finishing in second was Mr. Harvick, and in third place, Dale Jr. Good showing, but not a win, but still a good showing for Dale Jr. Also in NASCAR, Kurt Busch, not Kyle Busch, but Kurt Busch, has been suspended indefinitely for being involved in domestic abuse allegations, charges, what have you. Beating up his girlfriend or fiance or whatever, and NASCAR found out about it, and he is out indefinitely now. So good for them on being swift and proactive in such matters. All right, we got a tennis quickie. Roger Federer will not be playing in the Davis Cup this year. And I say, good for him. Who cares about the Davis Cup? Win some majors. All right, golf quickie. Davis Love III will be returning as the Ryder Cup captain. I believe he's only the third or fourth captain to ever have a second stint. And usually it doesn't happen after they lose. Usually only winners get to be captain again. But we'll see how that goes. Go USA. Yay, Ryder Cup. I don't know. All right, moving quickies on to the UFC. Last weekend, Frank Mir KO'd Antonio Silva in the first round of their heavyweight fight. So Frank Mir back and looking dominant, and that's good for the UFC. They could use some more buzz in their heavyweight division at the moment, and especially if Brock Lesnar should return sometime here in the next couple months, as his WWE contract is set to expire sometime soon after the upcoming WrestleMania on March 29th. And look at that, it led me into wrestling. All right, talk about WWE for just a second. WrestleMania 31 coming up. Like I said, the Fastlane pay-per-view was this last Sunday, and it was garbage if you're a WWE fan. I got to tell you, the only wrestling worth watching right now, if you're a fan of sports entertainment wrestling, is NXT wrestling on the WWE Network for just $9.99. It is a great deal, and I highly recommend it if you're a wrestling fan. But if you are, it's also hard to look forward to WrestleMania 31 other than Triple H taking on the returned 900-year-old Sting, and then Bray Wyatt going to kill the 800-year-old Undertaker. Those are about the only interesting matches. So that's where we're at. Got to talk some WWE. Yeah. Let me talk more next week if you like me. 2, let me know on the Twitter and the Facebook. Also, one more bit of UFC news. Following Anderson Spider Silva's second failed steroid drug test, which came after his previous fight against Mr. Diaz a few weeks ago, the UFC has a new drug policy. Starting July 1st, all the fighters on the entire roster will be randomly drug tested routinely throughout the entire year, including before and after main fights. So, way to go, Dana White and the UFC. Boy, if only Roger Goodell was watching how these NASCAR and UFC people run their leagues and their personal conduct policies. Food for thought. All right, finishing up quickies. We got men's college basketball, which it is almost time for March Madness, so now is the time to start watching your men's basketball. Do a little research on the teams you plan on picking, who you like, who you don't like, instead of just, going with whatever sounds good like I usually do. But anyway, tonight we got Kentucky trying to stay perfect. They're 27-0, and they're trying to stay perfect. It's the best record they've ever had in the history of that school, which I find extremely hard to believe considering all the great teams and great basketball that's come through that school. So they're interesting to watch. Been a lot of upsets this week so far. Could be some more tonight with number 1 Kentucky playing. Also number 2 Villanova is playing tonight, and number 4 Duke is also playing tonight. My condolences to the Wisconsin Badgers fans who were upset last night by the Maryland Terrapins. Hey, still plenty of season left. But that one did surprise me. I've watched some Wisconsin ball this year, and they're a pretty darn good team. So look out for them in the tournament still. And also, one more thing about college basketball going on lately. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of coverage, and issues with storming of the court after games and after upsets. I have some thoughts on it, but maybe we'll get into that next week as we are starting to run out of time here this week. But yeah, if you're interested in that, let me know on the Facebook, on the Twitter, BDST Show for the Twitter, and Balls Deep Sports Talk, Scotty Ball for the Facebook. Again, you're listening to Balls Deep Sports Talk with Scotty Ball here on Northern Lights Radio, WNLMradio.com. And we're going to have to wrap up the show here in just a minute with a segment I like to call Balls Deep Thought of the Day. All right, so for the show's final segment tonight, which again I'm calling Balls Deep Thought of the Day, what we're going to try and do for this segment at the end of every show is find something that we had talked about earlier in the show and kind of expand our outlook on it. And tonight's deep thought was inspired by our hockey conversation earlier, specifically Mr. Dobnik, goalie for the Minnesota Wild, who we recently acquired via trade, and the team turned around almost immediately upon his arrival. So, the deep thought is, or deep question, is who or what is the MVP in all of team sports? Now, when I say MVP, I do not mean most valuable player as in so-and-so, or this guy, or that guy, or whoever. No, when I say MVP, I mean most valuable position. Who in the world of team sports, in all the team sports of all the positions, who is the most valuable position? And why? As I was thinking about the Minnesota Wild's success, and Dobby, our new goalie, it made me wonder, is that the most valuable position in all of team sports, a hockey goalie? And the more I thought about it, the more I think, yeah, that probably is. You could make a real strong argument for a football quarterback. You could make a real strong argument for a baseball pitcher. You could make a strong argument for a soccer goalie, I suppose. What's the difference between a soccer goalie and a hockey goalie? Well, a hockey goalie has a much smaller net to guard. A soccer goalie has this huge net to guard. Thus, there is always a perfect shot, perfect kick that is unstoppable if you're a soccer goalie. Whereas if you're a hockey goalie, theoretically, every shot should be possible. It should be possible that you can stop every shot. There shouldn't be a shot that is unstoppable, unsavable for a hockey goalie. given the dimensions of the goalie and the goalie's defending. Also,